Definitely feels good to get out there. Last time I was out there on the field, other than practice, was November 18th, and it's, you go that long without something. It's tough, but it's been great. The guys have made it fun. They made it easy on me. Talking about our other players, they've been great from the beginning to now, and my progress is I would count my progress and support. I would count it to them. They've been great, like I said, and so. To get out there and have the confidence, that we had out there, it's only going to get better, and we can't wait.
Bears fans can't wait. If you consider, and I think many Vegas odds people do, the Lions are favorites in the NFC North right now. Peter, who would you put at number 2 on that list in the division?
I labored over this one because I think the Bears are a really interesting pick. I just haven't seen the proof of concept yet. And the Packers were kind of in a similar boat last year. I think there was a less heat on the Packers in the offseason, but everyone was like, if Jordan Love's great, like they have a lot of young talent and their defense is outstanding, they can do this. I saw it with my own 2 eyes. It all worked. And in December and January, there might have been no more lethal team than the Green Bay Packers. Mm-hmm. And as much as we talk about on that squad being, Love, and then the defense of Rashawn Gary and Jair Alexander and Kenny Clark and how loaded they are. The big X factor last year was the wide receivers and the tight ends. Like, who's Love throwing to? Who's he got? Mm-hmm. This is amazing. This team isn't going anywhere. I think they're going to be way better this year. Look at the wide receivers and tight ends for Green Bay. And the oldest one is probably 8th on the depth chart in Samori Toure, but Watson's still only 25. Bo Melton from Rutgers came on late, 25. Doubs, 24. Jaden Reed, awesome last year, 24. Heath, 24. Wicks, the second-year guy out of Virginia, 23. And then the 2 tight ends. They have 2 tight ends. Tucker Kraft from the small town, 23 years old, and Luke Musgrave, whose uncle was Billy Musgrave, the offensive coordinator for years in this league, is only 23. Guys, they aren't getting any older. They don't have some but if this guy's healthy, there are so many of them, and they were just scratching the surface as the season came to an end in San Francisco last year.
And none of them are holding out.
And they're all going to want to get paid eventually, but not this year. Christian Watson, we know he's got hamstring issues, so guess what? If he can't go, we've got 8 others that are all young and ready to go, including Nevada's own Romeo Doubs. I got to think Green Bay was just scratching the surface and just hitting their stride as they beat Dallas and gave San Francisco hell last year. So I'm going to say the Packers number 2 to Detroit and the Bears and Vikings fighting for that 3 spot. But I wouldn't argue if you said Vikings 2 or Bears 2. It's really a good division.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I'm right there with you. I do think, before I get to that number 2, I do think that the Minnesota Vikings, that's the team right there that is kind of okay, they can do a lot, and so I've got my eyes on them. I wanted to put them at the number 2 spot, but then I'm just I got to go with the Packers. So I'm right there with you, Peter. I think the Packers are strong. I'm especially in love with the upgrade that I believe in the versatility with Josh Jacobs and bringing Josh Jacobs into the fold. I think that gives Love a lot of options. I think it gives this offense an opportunity to do things that they perhaps couldn't do beforehand. And then I look at defensively. They've got Jair Alexander. They got Kenny Clark. I mean, this is a team that I believe that is ready to hold that number 2 spot. They're going to have to do a lot to try to shake the Detroit Lions off that number 1 spot, but they're going to be battling it out with the Minnesota Vikings for sure for that number 2.
Well, listen, I should set the table by saying I resent the question. I don't like the question. I would like mid-segment to remove what we call the lower third. I don't want that below me while I answer. When did I say that the Lions were the number 1 team?
You're not crowning them.
Some experts said this somewhere. We talk about our opinions here. Thank you for removing that so succinctly. We're way too obsessed with last year, and I understand it's all the games we have to go off of. But if you want to go off of last year, then make sure to go back and really look into last year, especially the second half of last year when the Bears absolutely smacked the Lions. Smacked them. Now, I don't know how many people watched that game. The Bears were a little off the radar, but it was they had 13 points the Lions scored in that game against a bad Bears team. Goff in the game was bad. Amon-Ra, nothing. Laporta, nothing. Because the best kept secret in the NFC right now is the Bears defense. And you're going to say, what are you talking about? You're crazy. Everyone's talking about Caleb and DJ Moore and all those guys, and that gets all the attention and all the airtime on Hard Knocks. There was not a better secondary in the entire NFL in the final 2 months of the season than the Chicago Bears secondary. I know it's not a sexy topic. Bears safeties and corners, fantastic. Ask the Lions. They know how good the Bears were at the end of last year, and that's before Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze, Caleb Williams, all those guys. Not to mention, Peter hit the Packers hard. Like, the Packers are bleeping loaded.
They're coming.
And I think in what we do, they don't have the superstars on offense other than Jordan Love, who's still really a neophyte. So they don't get the headlines that much. The guy that you knew and loved and had on your fantasy team was Aaron Jones, who's now on the Vikings, also in the division. I think this is the best division in the NFL. I think the best division in the NFL. If you can look at two teams where you would not blink if they were in the Super Bowl this year, the Lions and the Packers, and then the Bears absolutely loaded and everyone loves them, and the Vikings, who the hell knows? It's tough to find a division with that type of top heaviness in terms of Super Bowl potential. The Packers have it, the Lions have it. I did not do this discussion to slam the Lions. I love the Lions. But I'm not handing them anything, and look no further than Dan Campbell at the end of last year when they blew the Niners game in the title game, and they did blow it, when his first message to the team, Mr. Metallica, was, look, guys, we may never get here again. That's just real. That's how this league works. We had an amazing opportunity. We couldn't finish it. We may not get back here. It was right. It was honest. Never mind the Super Bowl. They may not get back to the NFC North again. It's a great division. We're not handing it to anybody, Peter.
Our show is a fluid amoeba that moves and is mobile. Look at the lower third now, Kyle.
Yeah!
It's not who's number two.
I like that amoeba.
Would you answer that question?
Who should be the favorite in the NFC North?
If it's not who's going to number two team, would you not
Go
say
ahead,
it's Detroit?
say it, Kyle. Go ahead, say it. You want to say Detroit.
Well,
go ahead,
yeah.
say it.
Listen, it's a different discussion. When you have trouble with these things, what do I always say? Look at the head coach and look at the quarterback. By far the most experienced quarterback and a head coach who has answered a lot of questions. So, yeah, favorite, sure. Favorite is just they'll maybe win it. But I'm not saying starting a conversation with who should be the number two team as if the Detroit Lions this year are the Jordan Bulls in the Eastern Conference and we can just hand it to them. They're not that good, guys. There's going to be a competition here.
I will answer who should be the number two team, but only because I don't know who the number one team is. That actually can still be up for grabs between the Bears and the Lions and the Packers, because I do want to put the Vikings at the second best team in the NFC North.
Oh, you might want to change the lower third. To ask them to change the lower third.
No, it's fine. Editorially, someone else
Who's the
could be
number
in
two
control.
team? Because
They're
the
in
other three. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I look at the Brian Flores experience in the second year as a defensive coordinator in Minnesota, and the fact that what we saw from what he wanted to accomplish in Minnesota last year was the full send experience. The Dallas Turner draft pick to me for the Vikings out of Minnesota or out of Alabama was a home run. Thank you. Within this Vikings defense, I was a little nervous when Danielle Hunter was able to walk away and leave this defense. Thought you were going to hit me again with that. I was like, okay, great, I'll do it. But clearly, Brian Flores has a plan. And you know who else he brought in this offseason? It's not going to blow your hair back, but it might blow his hair back. It's Andrew Van Ginkel. He is a part of this Vikings defense. But the fact is, there was a stretch last year where the Vikings were winning games. The beginning of the season was rough. Kirk Cousins gets hurt. The middle, Brian Flores starts to feel himself, and they were top 5 in the league in several categories in the middle of the season. Injuries started to supplant them, and that sucks. But, man, the Flores plan of action is to get a guy like Dallas Turner. When that happened for the Vikings late round in the draft this spring, I thought I could not believe he was still on the board.
The dude's a baller.
He's a baller.
He's a baller.
And I think if you're looking at young rookie quarterbacks, like remove Jared Goff, if you're looking at Jordan Love and Caleb Williams, I'd be scared if I was going up against that Vikings defense twice this season. So I'll put them at 2, only because I'm not sure what's going on at the quarterback position, but I think their defense is coming.
You know, you moved me a little bit towards the Vikings. You just moved me a little bit towards the Vikings.
That's the plan, Akbar. Kyle?
Well, listen, I love the optimism, but I'm not sure what's going on with the quarterback position is a little like, other than that, how was the play, Mrs. Lincoln? Like, there's a large conversation to be had, and I don't want to open up the vat and beat up Sam Darnold again, but I'm not a fan. Apparently, I'm in the minority. Every coach who's ever worked loves him, but I just still don't think that's going to be the thing, and I feel like they're not only not a 2, but like a clear 4. Not 3, a clear 4. Peter, you disagree?
I think going into this season, because of the unknowns at quarterback, they are a clear 4, and the defense is solid. But would you put that defense over Green Bay's, Detroit's, or Chicago's? I'm not sure. I want Laquan, our researcher, who's awesome. I want him for the commercial break, maybe. Has there ever been a division since the new format where we get 7 teams per conference? Has there ever been a division where all 4 teams went to the
possible,
playoffs?
right?
I want to think the AFC North one year had Steelers, Bengals, Ravens, and Browns make the playoffs, but I could be wrong. Maybe it was I'd love to see, because this might be that year where all 4 of these teams go to the playoffs.
Peter,
They're
that is
that good, and then just
mind-boggling.
division winners from the other 3.
It would be mind-boggling, because if you look at the standings, then you're telling me that not a single other team in the NFC would make it besides the division winners, and then those 3 would occupy it. That would be so shocking, but I guess it would lend itself to Kyle's argument that it's the
Laquan, we got
best or toughest. I'm just buying Laquan time. Laquan?
I'm looking at it now. 2020 AFC North,
I have
where you
thought.
had the Pittsburgh Steelers 12-4, 11-5 Browns, Ravens 11-5, and then the Bengals were 4-11 that year. But it's on par.
Okay, so that's only 3. All right.
Yeah.